The game booted up with nothing, no flashy menu, no creepy music, just silence, absolute silence. At the bottom of the screen, one word appeared, Frever. We laughed at first. Frever Studio sounds like a knockoff dev team name, but the longer the loading screen dragged on, the less funny it became. The room around us felt heavier, like the game itself was holding its breath. When it finally loaded, we were dropped into a hallway. Not a colorful map, not a typical horror level, a hallway that looked lived in. The paint was peeling, the fluorescent lights buzzed like they were dying, and an old tripod leaned in the corner like someone had left mid-shoot. The red exit sign at the end flickered, barely alive, and that's when it hit me. This doesn't look like a game. It looks like footage from somewhere real. Then we noticed it, the detail that made us freeze. In the next room, a monitor flickered with static. On it was footage of us. Sitting there, right then, playing the game, no character model, no avatars, just us, live on screen. We leaned closer, breath held. My heart was already pounding, and nothing had even jumped out yet, and then snap. The lights in-game shut off. The hallway behind us drowned in pitch black, and in that silence, the first sound came creeping through the headphones. Footsteps, slow, heavy, echoing closer. We didn't move, didn't speak, just listened as they drew nearer and nearer, until it felt like they were standing right behind us. That's where everything went wrong. We spun the character around instantly, hearts racing, convinced we'd see someone lurking in the shadows. But the hallway was empty. No movement, no figure, just the faint hum of the dying lights. Still, the sound of footsteps didn't stop. They kept echoing through the headphones, slow, deliberate, dragging like someone was wearing heavy boots. Each thud came closer, until it felt like whoever it was had to be breathing right down our necks. I whispered, half joking but mostly terrified, "Don't turn around, don't do it." But of course curiosity won. We spun again, and there it was. Not a monster, not a ghost, just a door. A door that hadn't been there before. It didn't make sense. We had walked this hallway, checked every corner, and now this door stood there like it had been waiting for us. The game seemed to dare us forward. With shaky hands, we clicked it open. The screen glitched hard, freezing in jagged frames like an old VHS tape, trying not to die. For a second, I thought the game had crashed. Then the picture snapped back, and suddenly we were inside a studio. The air felt thick, the atmosphere heavier than before. Old microphones leaned against cracked stands, busted film reels littered the floor, and half-burned scripts lay scattered like someone had tried to erase them. On the far wall, barely visible in the shadows, the words were painted in black, Frever Studio. We crept toward the dusty desk in the middle of the room. On it sat a single VHS tape. Its label was scratched on with jagged handwriting, "Do not watch." We froze. Everything about it screamed bad idea, but we both knew exactly what we were going to do. We hit play. The screen flickered, and what showed up next wasn't just disturbing. It was the start of something far worse. The tape didn't roll like a normal cutscene. No title screen, no grainy film filter. Instead, the game faded to black, then came back. Only this time, it wasn't showing our character. It was showing us. Our real names flashed across the top corner of the screen, typed out in sharp white letters. My stomach dropped. Wait, how the hell does it know that? I muttered, my voice cracking, and then, as if to prove it wasn't some glitch, our reflections flickered in the monitor. Distorted, warped, like we were being filmed from a camera behind us. I laughed nervously, the kind of laugh you do when you're trying to convince yourself you're fine. But my palms were slick on the controller. This wasn't a simple scare. This game knew who we were. The tape cut again, shifting to a shaky POV shot. Someone was holding a camera, sprinting through the same studio we were standing in. The lens bobbed and tilted, catching glimpses of broken chairs and smashed lights as they ran. Every few seconds, you could hear the cameraman's breathing fast, panicked, ragged, and then whispering. Words too soft to catch, like he was talking to himself or to someone hiding just out of view. Out of nowhere, a deafening bang cracked through the speakers, making us both jolt back in our seats. The screen warped, colors bleeding together like wet paint, and suddenly we weren't watching the tape anymore. We were inside it. The studio warped around us, grainy, and washed out like old film stock. The air buzzed with static, and at the very edge of the frame there was someone. A tall figure standing perfectly still, watching us. We froze. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. We didn't move the joystick, didn't say a word. The figure didn't approach, didn't react. It just stood there, and then, just as we finally took a cautious step forward to confront it, it vanished. At this point, we weren't even sure if we were still playing a game. The screen, the sounds, the way the room around us felt, it was all blending together. My gut screamed to quit, to shut it down, but the pause menu wouldn't even open. We were trapped inside. The camera panned slowly across the room, and that's when we realized where we were. A film set. The walls were smeared with something dark, the director's chair overturned, cameras toppled on their sides. It looked like a shoot had ended in chaos, like everyone had run for their lives. Then we saw the script, lying open on the floor, torn, smudged, but still legible enough to read. And what it said made the hairs on my neck stand up. It was our dialogue, every word we had just spoken while playing, written down in black ink before we had even said it. I felt my throat dry up. No, 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 no. This is impossible. This game isn't just watching us, it's writing us. As if it heard me, the screen flickered. The script updated itself, line by line in real time, and right at the bottom, new words bled onto the page. Keep doubting. It feeds us. That's when the scratching started. At first, faint like fingernails brushing across metal, then louder, sharper. It circled the room, clawing along the walls, the floor, the ceiling, surrounding us from every side. I held the controller so tight my knuckles ached, too scared to move. The scratching slowed, stopped, and the silence that followed was worse. Then bam, the screen snapped to black. For a long second, nothing, no sound, no movement, just blackness. And when the picture finally came back, my blood ran cold. We weren't in the studio anymore. We were sitting in our own room. Same desk, same monitor, same reflection in the glass. Frever Studio hadn't just been inside the game. It was here with us. The moment it began, I knew we were in the end game. The walls shuddered like something massive was pushing against them from the outside. Sirens screamed through the headphones, lights strobed red and white, and the game camera jerked violently with every step. It wasn't just chaotic, it was disorienting, like the game was trying to throw us off balance. Through the static and flashing lights, we saw movement. Something crawling in the vents above us. At first, just a shadow, then a limb, too long, too thin, scraping across the metal as it dragged itself closer. Every flicker of the lights brought it nearer, from far back in the vents to right overhead, and then, its hand pressed against the screen of the monitor like it was trying to break through. We panicked, sprinting down the nearest hallway. The character's footsteps pounded in sync with our own heartbeats. Every door we opened led to another corridor, another flickering exit sign, another tripod knocked onto the floor. But no matter how far we ran, it always looped back. The studio was folding in on itself, reshaping like it wanted to keep us trapped. My voice cracked as I muttered, "This isn't level design. This is a cage." We tried every trick, backtracking, hiding, even standing still, but nothing worked. The walls pulsed, the alarms glitched, and every camera angle seemed to push us forward like some invisible hand was directing the scene. Then silence, total silence, the alarms cut, the lights died, the screen froze on one grainy frame of the studio, and that's when the words bled across the screen in jagged red text. Thank you for telling our story. We didn't breathe. We didn't move, just stared at the words as they sat there, unblinking, until finally the game crashed. The monitors shut off. Our PC went completely dead. The only sound left was our own breathing, fast, shaky, uneven. For what felt like forever, we just sat there in the dark, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Then, with no warning, the screen blinked back to life, and in that instant, my stomach dropped, because it wasn't the game. It wasn't the menu, it wasn't even the desktop, it was us, our reflection in the glass sitting at the desk. But the reflection wasn't right. It leaned forward when we didn't. Its eyes locked on to ours, and then it smiled. Not our smile, not human, too wide, too wrong. We yanked the plug, killed the power completely, and sat frozen in the pitch black. No talking, no jokes, just silence. Safe to say we're never opening that game at night again.